Hello, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to tell you all the wonderful things I found while playing Planet Crafter, and exactly why it's had me addicted for at least 40 hours over the last couple of weeks, and why I think if you enjoy crafting survival games, you should give it a go. So what is Planet Crafter? Planet Crafter is a survival game where you are dropped onto a planet, a barren planet, with no life, no water, no plant life, nothing. Your ship has crashed, and your original duty was to terraform this planet into something much more useful for the corporation that you work for. The game itself, to me, feels like a softer, quieter, slower version of something like Satisfactory. However, there is a much bigger element of changing the world around you, but it follows that idea of build all the things, build them many, many times, and see how quickly you can move to the next stage of progression. Now, I was originally going to do a full-blown series on this, and I may still. However, what I wanted to do was just sort of do a little video essay piece just to give you an idea of what the game is about, what I've enjoyed, and see whether or not you guys would be into seeing a more longer version. So I started my game off much like many players do, crash landing and not knowing what I'm doing, scrambled around trying to collaborate all of the resources I need so that I can at least stay alive. Now, the early game is very much about not running out of oxygen, not starving to death, and not dying from dehydration. Each of these requires you to gather some items to make refills, and I found this was the most limiting factor in the early game, and it added quite a high level of challenge. Very early on, exploration is very important. To rapidly progress, you kind of need to find a lot of abandoned and crash landed products and items. Without them, you're kind of stuck in the slow lane. And I at first thought that that was all the game was, and I was a little concerned. It did seem very sort of shallow. My expectations were completely blown, however, when I hit sort of the mid-game, where things suddenly started to become a lot more about managing many things outside of just my own survival. Power became a very big thing. It was very much about making sure that as I rapidly expand all of my machines, have I got enough power infrastructure to make that work? And it's a little bit simpler than, say, something like Satisfactory, where everything is connected to the same power grid. You don't really have to worry about running cables. You don't have to worry about running connectors. But that element of expansion and being able to support that expansion is definitely still there. I built a base, and then I built another base, and then I built a third base as things got bigger and things needed more space. Previously, ores and resources that I was finding really difficult to go and hand collect, I had far too many once I unlocked mining machines. That then moved me into the area of specialist items that you probably only need a couple of, but getting hold of them was quite difficult. What started out as a very barren planet with nothing on there now had water. It now had lakes. It had trees, it had grass, it had butterflies. It was growing around me, and that felt amazing. It was one of those few moments in games where you look around and think, yeah, I caused that, I built that. And it's why I get on with crafting, survival, and these sorts of games really well, is there's a real feel of progression outside of just numbers on the screen. However, at the end of the day, the number that is on the screen is absolutely the goal. And being able to terraform quicker and more efficiently and taking up less room as I do it was always the main aim of each step. Now, the map itself, very much like similar games in the genre, is a handcrafted map. It doesn't regenerate, it doesn't change. However, what they have recently introduced is completely random determinated crashed spaceships, which you can access later on in the endgame to go and loot all the goodies inside. And I found this quite interesting. I believe there's probably more work to be done there. However, the idea and the concept worked really well. In the background, there is a storyline, obviously, of being crash landed, but there is also things to find out on the planet and a rather cryptic side storyline that I kind of got into and really enjoyed. My only one criticism there, however, is I found the storyline elements backwards. I found them out of order. And as a result, I kind of got a different story to what I think was the main idea. Now, I do know come endgame, you kind of have a choice to make based on these storylines as to which one you want to round and finish your game off with. And while I like that idea, part of me kind of just wants to stay on my paradise planet that I've created. Now, that's not to say the game is all sunshine and roses. I did find it very difficult both in the early stages, and if you caught the live stream you will have seen us agonizing over what to do next, where I sort of felt a little bit lost, which for me is rare. Normally it's fairly well signposted, and I've played enough of these games to sort of get a good feel for what I'm meant to be doing. However, there was a lot of times where I'm looking at my crafting panel, I'm looking at my research tree, and I'm thinking, I need to get to the next stage to get all the good fun stuff. But there isn't an easy way of getting there apart from just sitting back and letting the game run for an hour. It turned out in the end that it was largely down to me not reading the descriptions correctly, but I kind of feel like the game should have held my hand a little bit more at those points just to make sure I wasn't in a scenario where I didn't know that I needed to read correctly. A lot of that also ties into the main gameplay loop of forever upgrading your machines. It's not so much like Factorio or Satisfactory where you just build up on scale. You can, but when tier 1 is 1/5 of the output of tier 2, it always makes more sense to delete your tier 1 and pop in tier 2. And the same applies as you grow up those levels. You always want to be replacing rather than adding to. This kind of led me to building many bases as I kept feeling like I needed different space requirements. And that wasn't a bad thing because the world was looking better and better at every stage. Suddenly I had waterfalls, I had forests, so I'd moved my base to a more scenic view. What I did somehow hit a challenge with would be the building system. Now the building system in the game is fairly good. It works quite well. I will say there are challenges with rotation and challenges with linking items together, but I don't think that should put anybody off, really. Aside from a couple of moments where I didn't know what I was doing, the pacing has always felt fairly good. I always felt that every time I sit down and have a good hour's game time on it, I'd get somewhere. It feels like I've progressed, it feels like I've advanced, and the fact that that number is always increasing, the terraforming is always continuing in the background, you always feel like when you're playing, something is being unlocked and something is opening up. That's not to say there isn't elements of grind. So there is a function within the game where you can trade using rockets, and what you pop on those rockets can then be sold to this mysterious other entity to get things in return. And a lot of the more interesting and exciting building stuff that I would want to design a nice base around required a significant number of trade. Now later game you get automation, you get automated drones, you get auto crafters, and you can set up little farms that will send off these rockets. But I feel this is one area of the game that is a little bit unnecessary. This game has an end. It is a game that you will complete. It's not a forever game where you will continue to play and develop and grow. It will be finishing once you get to a certain point of terraformation. If I then have to spend significant amount of the time not building with the nice pretty things and instead having to run farms to get them, that feels a little off. However, that aside, I do feel myself sort of getting to the end of the workday. I finished putting together my other videos, and then I'd always jump on for an hour just for a very chill, roaming around, collecting things and building session. There is no overarching danger in the game outside of just running out of air or running out of food, and once you've got those pretty much set up, then that's not really a worry. Even to the point where later on in the game, the atmosphere becomes breathable and oxygen is now no longer an issue. So with those dangers aside, that kind of just leaves you to get on with it and get on with building and get on with enjoying a very chill gaming session. Planet Crafter has just celebrated its 1.0 launch, kicking itself screaming into the world, ready for everybody to jump on in and start playing. It absolutely feels like a fully completed game, and I would wholeheartedly recommend it to those who just want that nice chill sit back and play. It's also now got a fully fleshed out multiplayer mode which can take up to 10 players, and it's definitely something I want to jump on in with a couple of friends and just give it a try at not building on my own, not building this planet myself, but instead speed running it and seeing how quickly we can build and how big we can build it. All of that is something that just gets my little creative juices flowing, and I very much can't wait to give it a go. If you want to give the game a go, I've popped a link in the description to Instant Gaming where you can get a nice 17% discount off by using that link. I get a little bit of kickback from it, so you're helping out the channel and also scoring this wonderful game that desperately needs everybody's support, as they have pledged to keep the free updates coming, including additional planets. If you enjoyed the video today, don't forget to tippy tap the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. Keep an eye out for our Wednesday streams where we will be doing more Planet Crafter, and I will see you next time. Bye guys.